Hello and welcome back to Will's World Reviews and More. This is going to be a video reviewing the first 3 episodes of the Monday Night War series on the WWE Network. Obviously by now a lot of you guys will have the network. I've watched one pay-per-view, the Royal Rumble 2000, and then I was going to watch the next in the line of 2000 pay-per-views, but I got kind of sidetracked with this series. I know this series was one that a lot of the people were looking forward to, a lot of the reasons people wanted the network in the first place, and I have to say, guys, it hasn't disappointed. It's kind of got me enthralled a little bit, and I didn't know what to do with, the reviews, whether to do like an individual episode review, or kind of do a complete review at the end of the series. And in the end, I decided that I've got a bit of time, so I'd review the first 3, and we'll take it as it is. Next time I've got a bit of time and I've watched a couple more episodes, I'll give my thoughts on them ones. But so far, we'll go through these ones. So yeah, great series, I have to say. Any of you guys who've got the network out there and haven't caught it yet, please watch it, because it's so interesting, especially for someone like me who's interested in the history side of it as well. It really explains a lot of things that you kind of may have missed or may not be aware of. Obviously, there is some little criticisms of it as well, which we'll get into, but mainly, guys, it is a great series to watch. So the first episode, entitled "The War Begins," can I just give the background to the creation of WCW, as they bought Jim Crockett Promotions and Ted Turner, kind of revolutionised that, and also give a bit of history about WWE, and it kind of just charted that development of both companies and how the war began, and how originally Ted and Vince kind of worked together. WWE was on Turner Network along with USA, and then just their separation basically caused the rivalry and started the war. Interesting to see different people have their kind of opinions. It's a shame that the only interview they seem to have with Eric Bischoff is from 2003, which is over 10 years old. Obviously, I don't think Vince or WWE and Eric Bischoff are on the best of terms at the moment, which explains why maybe they didn't kind of contact him directly for this documentary series. There is other wrestlers like Lex Luger, which you wouldn't have thought would be on there, which did. So and their current interviews were when that was filmed. So that shows how, I guess it gives the series gives an indication of which past superstars or past producers or writers, whatever you go. So you got Vince Russo on there as well. Whoever's on being interviewed, it shows their kind of relationship with WWE at this time, and I guess that's quite interesting to see. So I say that first episode is really a really good introduction and opening basis for it, for the series to go along, and it really does pique your interest. The second episode was the rise of the NWO. Really enjoyed this because, as a kid being a WWE fan, I never really saw much of the NWO until they came to WWE, which obviously wasn't very much a big success. And what this episode did, it really showed how instrumental they were in basically saying, look, we're the best. And then Vince had to go, well, how am I going to counteract this? Which we'll get into in the next episode, obviously. But this episode, particularly focusing on NWO, just shows how strong the personalities of Nash and Hall were to kind of really go into that company. And the genius of Eric Bischoff, has to be said. No matter what you say about him, it was a good move on his part. And then the whole shock of Hogan joining NWO, but then you kind of got the feeling that the fans must have done eventually with NWO, is that they had so many members, they had to split off into 2 anyway, the Wolfpack and the Originals, and then you had members which you didn't think would join. Like the one that stuck out for me was Randy Savage, because originally he was the one that got leg dropped by Hogan in the first place to start the NWO, and then eventually he becomes part of the NWO. I mean that to me just symbolised how it kind of spun out of control. But again, another great episode to watch if you want to know about the history of the NWO and WCW and how they took over in that war, and just how poor WWE was at the time with their gimmicks, the trash men and dentists and all of that. So that was another good episode to kind of give you indication of that. I know some, not some people, Eric Bischoff was a bit pissed off with that episode in particular, because it kind of painted the fact that Nash and Hall left for monetary reasons, which is the line that WWE would spin, and on the interviews, it looks like that Nash and Hall would also spin. Now, whether that's true or not, I'm not sure, because Bischoff is kind of stating that he thinks Nash and Hall left that opportunity to be part of something bigger because they thought WCW was on the rise, something like that. That's what Bischoff was implying. Whereas Hall and Nash and WWE kind of towing this line that they were offered a lot of money by Ted Turner. And it could be a combination of both, which I think is probably the truth. I think they probably offered him a little bit more money than WWE, not a massive amount like WWE are saying, but at the same time, the lure of being the top guys in that company, minus Hogan obviously, was a big pull for them. And you can kind of understand Nash. I mean, he goes into an interview and says about his wife saying, this is your family now. He's got a pregnant wife and he needs to take the money, and it comes across that way that he did the right thing. But that's the only thing that has stuck out from that episode for me in terms of a con. But we're not really quite sure what to say about that. The last episode that I've watched is the third episode, and that is Embracing Attitude. And this was quite an interesting one to watch for me because I kind of just started watching wrestling originally on the tail end of the Attitude Era. Like I said, the 2000 was the year I got into it. So I watched when I started getting into it, it was really the tail end of it, and WWE was in the lead kind of thing. So it was interesting to go back to the start and how it started, and the rise of Austin, the rise of DX, and also the kind of the Rock and the hardcore scene. And it kind of goes into those details. It doesn't go into too much depth because later episodes focus on each individual thing. Pardon me. Which I didn't realise at the time, and that's why I was a bit concerned they didn't focus on each thing like Austin and DX, but they've got their own episodes, which is coming up next. So, but what was interesting about this particular one is just how determined Vince was to kind of take back the ratings war, and how he would literally do anything. This episode focused on the sex appeal at the time, and you kind of see, in comparison now to maybe some things out there, it's not as bad as people made out at the time. But then obviously times change, so and that's it really. But again, another really good episode. It's nice to have the people interviewed. Like I said, you got Vince Russo, Bischoff from an old interview. You got Michaels and Luger and Triple H, all quite current interviews. Austin even makes an appearance on there. The Rock as well. You got current superstars like Ambrose and Roman Reigns, Dolph Ziggler, The Miz. So you've got a really good background, and like I said, it's really well produced documentary series so far, and there really isn't that many complaints. Like I said, the only complaint I've got so far is that there may be a tendency to sugarcoat things. Looking back in hindsight, they can kind of alter things. Maybe that weren't quite as, maybe they're making out that it was a little bit easier than it actually was. That's just a little bit of a feeling I'm getting so far, but in general, it's a series I can't knock. So I'd definitely suggest, if you have the network, do start watching this series. And if you haven't got the network and you're watching this video, then sign up, because you've got 15 days from when you sign up for it to be free trial, and then you get your bill date after that. So then you can even cancel it from. Sign up today, you cancel it tomorrow. You've got a day's worth of watch the whole series if it's that what you want and nothing else, and then cancel it and you're not charged anything. It really is worth it, and I can't wait for this Sunday for the Rumble. I'll do a review of that. But until then, guys, thanks for liking and watching this video and subscribing and commenting, all of that. Really appreciate it. Like I said, I'll be back soon, hopefully with another review. Not quite sure what it'll be yet, but stay tuned, and I'm sure it won't be long. So, cheers, guys. Thanks a lot.